I am the perfect person to give you advice, to give you an expert opinion about polyamory, because I have experience doing it, but I don't believe in it. You do not want the expert perspective on Buddhism that comes from a true believer. You do not want to learn about Catholicism or Islam or communism or anything else from a true believer. You want to seek out the perspective of someone who has experience doing in the absence of believing. Someone wrote in asking, how can it really be possible for polyamory to be honest and open when you're lying to your own kids about it? And I think it's worth saying, I think part of the context of this question coming in from a Patreon supporter is, it makes sense when I say to you in the audience, if you're lying to your girlfriend, there's a problem. If you're concealing something from your husband, wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, there's a problem. If you can't be honest with your girlfriend, if you can't be honest with yourself, where there's smoke, there's fire. There's something really seriously wrong with the situation. And recognizing the concealment you're engaged in is the only warning you should need to roll up your sleeves and deal with whatever it is, whether you're lying to yourself, lying to others. Okay, but, one of my supporters on Patreon here says, but isn't it the case that everyone is lying to their kids, even if they're not lying to their husband or wife, even if they're not lying to their own parents? Some people like to say, don't do anything in public you wouldn't do in front of your own grandmother. This is raising a very different question. Would you do things in private that you'd never be honest with your children or grandchildren about? Quote, it seems to me that all people with an active sex life need to be two-faced since they cannot be honest to children about it. When I was growing up, it was a harrowing experience to find out about the secret lives of almost everyone around me. People almost always lie to children. The thought of it fills me with guilt, just as you can't imagine, so just as I can't imagine, having a double life in front of adults, like your girlfriend or wife or husband or boyfriend. I can't imagine living a double life in front of children. I wonder if you have anything to say about it. We're not really talking about the politics of sex here. We're talking about sex as politics. If you can't be honest with your own children about your political ambitions, I think there is something wrong. There is something profoundly wrong, in the same sense that before I was saying, if you can't be honest with your, husband or wife about what it is you're doing, even if it's just one 30-minute conversation you had on the phone with someone, even if it's just one person you met for lunch one time. What is the kind of world you want to live in? What is the kind of country, the kind of city, the kind of society you want to live in? And what are you willing to do to achieve it? And then on a tiny scale, what kind of family do you want to have? What kind of intimate personal relationships do you want to have? And if you are so ashamed of that you could never be honest with your children about it, I think you do have a problem. So you're already picking up on the extent to which I profoundly disagree with the assumption of the person sending me these questions. I would be completely comfortable saying to my daughter, you know what? A quadrilateral 4-party marriage is a wonderful idea. It would be so great to have an MF relationship. So a 4-partner household, a family with 4 people, 2 men, 2 women. Let's just say both of the men are heterosexual. Let's just say both of the women are bisexual, because in the real world, that's often what motivates these scenarios. It would be so great to have a partnership of 4 people where each one respects the other 3, where there's real appreciation, not just 3 ways and 4 ways in the bedroom, where everyone gets along and everyone pays their share of the rent. They all contribute also economically. That is a wonderful model for a family, but it's so hard. It's so hard to achieve. It's so hard to have 2 heterosexual men work together where they regard each other cooperatively, not competitively, not combatively, right? Even imagine two brothers living that way. So let's just say two heterosexual brothers, and then they each have a bisexual wife, and the two wives sleep with each other as well as with the two men. Can those two brothers pay equal parts of the rent for an apartment where the four of them live together and ultimately even have and raise kids? It's not impossible. It's not. It's hard. It's rare. It's unlikely to eventuate. And it's much easier to imagine one man living with two women in a triangular relationship. So we are looking at renting apartments in New York right now. We have one friend in New York. He and his girlfriend are also looking at renting apartments in New York. There has been no suggestion or insinuation, by the way, of any kind of sexual three-way or four-way between any of us in this case. They are just our friends. And you think, wow, we could save so much money on rent if we share one kitchen. We get a three-bedroom apartment, let's say. And the four of us share it, but we all have one kitchen and one laundry machine and that kind of thing. And now our rent, is going to be so much lower than if we separately, as two couples, rent two one-bedroom apartments. But it's going to be so hard to make that work. Even though everyone involved is vegan, everyone involved is sober. No drugs, no alcohol, no meat, no dairy. We have a lot in common. That's why we're friends. Right? So here's my question. Here's my question back to the member of the audience in this. Why would that be hard for me to say to my own daughter? Why? Why would I be dishonest about it? Why would I be deceptive about it? I'll tell you why. Because people want to present their own lives as triumphal rather than tragic. And people don't want to say things as honest and down to earth as, yeah, this is something I would desire. This is a situation I'd love to be in. This is a better society or better family situation, better relationship I would love to have, but I can't do it. I've failed. I either due to my own shortcomings or the shortcomings of the other people who came into my life who I had the opportunity to have this kind of relationship with. So to be honest about polyamory and to be honest about what you want with children, it's not just possible. It's not just a lofty ideal to be aspired to. I would even say it's a minimum requirement. Now, I used to live in Bangkok, Thailand. I used to live in the San Plateau, Laos, Vientiane, capital city of Laos, Cambodia. I was surrounded by men who were sleeping with prostitutes. I was surrounded by men who got into ambiguous gray area relationships with karaoke singers, where this is 50% prostitution and 50% of real relationship and 100% ruins their life. Yeah, I knew a guy with a PhD who ruined his life getting into bed with a karaoke singer in Cambodia. Okay, I have known men who lived sex lives that they would lie to their children about, but they would also lie to their wife or girlfriend or parents about. They would lie to everyone about. So, it's a flexible but ineluctable standard. I have always said, I had the luxury of never sleeping with prostitutes, partly just because I am handsome enough. I haven't had to. I used to reflect on this when I was doing long distance cycling. What if I have just one bicycle accident that caves in my face? What if I have an accident that physically disables me? Now I don't have that luxury anymore. Now I'm in the class of men where maybe the only love I can ever have in my life is through prostitution. That can happen to anyone. You can be born beautiful and die ugly, So I don't want to be a hypocrite about that. Maybe there are some men in this audience where you do sleep with prostitutes, and that is part of what you have to be honest with your own children about. And you can say, look, kid, read it in Shakespeare. Read it in the literature of ancient Greece and ancient Rome, ancient China, ancient India, even the Bible, even the ancient Jewish world, what do you want to say? Prostitution has always been a part of society, and this is why. Some people are winners, some people are losers. Not everyone is an Olympic athlete. Not everyone is an Instagram model. Not everyone has the kind of charismatic personality of Aysel Mazard that gets him positive attention from women when he goes to an academic conference full of people with PhDs at Cambridge and Oxford, and when he goes to a stand-up comedy show in New York City and whatever. Not everyone. And there are a whole hell of a lot of people who have no better option than engaging in prostitution as either the buyer or the seller or both. Some are gay, some are straight. And look, kid, this is how the world really works. And this is how your own parents are a part of it. Yes, I think that's a minimum requirement. I don't think that's a lofty ideal to be aspired to. Another question about polyamory, I think it's overlapping. It says, well, I'm paraphrasing here. Look, Zell, you talk a lot about honesty and openness. But what about actually seeing the other person having sex? So, like, is it required that everyone is in the same room? Now, by the way, bisexuality is a big part of this. I just think you can imagine it's different if you have a totally heterosexual couple, or if either the woman or the man are bisexual and are looking for something their primary partner can't provide that way. Okay, look, life is long. I think it's very easy to say the first time you meet another couple, you meet other people, everyone should be in the room together. If you meet complete strangers and you're all getting to know each other, right? But like, there are a lot of people in polyamorous relationships, all four people have known each other for 10 years. You know, so, you know, at that point, everyone knows each other, everyone trusts each other. It's not really like you need surveillance in that sense. I would hope. So, you know, this may sound like an incredibly stupid, incredibly simple point, but, you know, surveillance and the need for surveillance has a reciprocal relationship with trust, has a reciprocal relationship with personal initiative, personal responsibility. If you are a couple that has a very high level of trust, very high level of individual initiative, very high level of personal responsibility for all parties, then the need for surveillance, the need to be in the same room together is very low or very limited. You know, and then again, when the reverse is true, there's more and more of a need to be in the same room together, to be making commitments together, making decisions together, and dealing with the consequences of your actions together. Now, the term psychological projection has very negative connotations, and it shouldn't. I am the kind of guy who has a huge amount of personal initiative, very high level of self-criticism and taking personal responsibility. When something goes wrong in my life, I analyze the hell out of it, and I'm really interested in reflecting on what I did wrong and why did I make this decision at that time. That's what I'm like. And I have a tendency to assume everyone else is the same. I have discovered, to my astonishment, that I am in a relationship with someone who is very much the opposite. I'm in a relationship with someone who will actually have, like, you know, selective amnesia about mistakes. She will choose to forget something, delete something from her memory rather than reflect on what she's done wrong. It's been a huge, huge source of heartbreak in this relationship. And I've mentioned this before. This isn't just he said, she said. It's not just that I remember things differently. So much of what we've done in life, we have the record of what really happened in videos, in emails, in Instagram posts and photographs. So it's been very easy for us to look, you may have forgotten what happened, but here's what really happened. Sometimes I'm able to show Melissa, here's what you wrote yourself, here's the email you sent to me, and so on. So, you know, we both have contact with objective reality in retrospect. How can you expect someone to go out individually on their own and initiate, engage in romantic relationships, etc., to have sex with other people, to talk to other people behind your back, so to speak, if you don't have extraordinarily high levels of trust and, again, personal initiative, because there's hard work involved on all sides, and a profound sense of personal responsibility, okay? You can't. And I have been guilty of psychological projection in assuming that like 90% of people in society have these traits in common with me. And as I've gotten older, I'm now in my 40s, I have had to recognize that these are extraordinary and rare traits that I have. And they're virtues, whether you are monogamous or polyamorous, whether you are in mon or incel, whether you have one partner or whether you have 10. So again, my response to this is that you in the audience should develop the fundamentals. You should aspire to be a person with extraordinary integrity extraordinary personal integrity, extraordinary initiative, extraordinary sense of personal responsibility, and that you should deserve the trust of others in your life that way. And that will benefit you, and that will benefit everyone connected to you, even if you never have a single secondary sexual partner.